Our devotion today is from Revelation chapter 5. Before we look at that, I do want to remind you today to be in prayer for Teresa McCoy. So, we're going to Revelation chapter 5 today, going all the way to the last book of the Bible. And during the month of April, we have been talking about this topic we've been studying around the topic of redemption, thinking about the redemption that Jesus Christ won for us on the cross. And we certainly see that in the book of Revelation. We see sort of the culmination, the end game of the plan of salvation that Christ has for us. Of course, we know that it's not the end. Really, it's the beginning of our eternal life that Christ has for us, the life that we're going to spend with God for all of eternity. But Revelation, we see the victory that Jesus wins. We see how it's going to play out. Of course, Revelation is the vision that was given to John. It's just Jesus Christ revealing who he is to John. And first three chapters of Revelation are Jesus' letters to the church. And in chapter 4, John begins to have this vision. He's caught up to heaven, and he is in the throne room of God. And he sees this incredible worship service that's going on. You've got that scene where there's these four strange creatures surrounding the throne, and you've got the 24 elders, and you've got the angels, and all of them, everyone is worshiping God, singing holy, 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 and the elders are casting their crowns down. Well, in chapter 5, we see that a change begins to take place in this worship service. Suddenly, John notices that within the right hand of this one who's sitting on the throne is this scroll. And we don't know what's written on the scroll. We know it's covered all over, front and back, and it's sealed up. And we get the indication that this is one pretty important scroll, because somebody needs to open and to read this scroll. So they look around for someone who they say is worthy to open this scroll and to read it. They search heaven, they search earth, and aren't able to find someone. And we know that it's important because at this moment, John sort of understands what's happening. We're not told how, but he begins to weep because this scroll cannot be opened. And I would submit to you today that this scroll represents God's salvation plan, his ultimate redemption plan for everything, and represents his final judgment on sin and on evil, getting rid of it for good. Because you see that when the scroll begins to be opened, judgment begins to be poured out, and it's sort of like this wrapping up of things that begin to happen with this scroll. And so John and everyone else knows this scroll has to be opened so that God can have his final victory, so the redemption can be complete. And of course, suddenly there appears this one, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, who has conquered. He is worthy to open the scroll, the one who is like a lamb that had been slain. Of course, we know that it's talking about Jesus Christ. He is worthy to open the scroll. And I like verse 9 here. It says, "Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God." One of the questions, or not one of the questions, but one of the statements that Jesus made during his earthly ministry, and he told his disciples this as he was on his way to the cross, is that the Son of Man must suffer. He must die. He must rise again. And it's even something that the angels say to those who come to the tomb after Jesus is risen. Don't you remember he told you these things must take place? They must, because they're part of God's plan to ransom a people for God. That payment needed to be made. And you see, really, here that truth again. Why did the Son of Man have to suffer? Why did the Lamb have to be slain? Here it is. You are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God. I'm not claiming to be able to understand everything about how this works, but you see ultimately, because of what Jesus did, because of his sacrifice, because he was willing to be slain, because of his sinlessness, because he took the wrath of God upon himself, even though he didn't deserve it, he was able to open the scroll because of what he did. He was able to ransom us to himself, to pay for us, to buy us out of slavery from sin, out of death, and to bring us to God. It's because of who he is and because of what he did. That is why he is worthy. And I love this scene because it sets up eternity for us. Worthy is him. He is worthy to be worshipped, and we will spend eternity worshiping and glorifying him. And this chapter really, it's a contrast between chapter 4. They're still worshiping God, but you see this, like the worship that they were worshiping the one on the throne with. Now they begin to worship the one, the Lamb who has been slain, who is there. And of course, it's God. It's Jesus Christ. And so I think it's an incredible thing for us to meditate on today. Think about today what Jesus did for you and that eternity that is waiting for us, that he has for us. If God spoke something to you today out of this passage, leave us a message on Facebook, on YouTube, and let's remember to minister to one another. God bless you guys. Thank you for taking time to listen to this.